Amir Khan, Terence Crawford next month. Now, obviously, you're in with Khan. I know he beat you, but it was a good fight. How do you see that fight going?
I think there was a time in Amir Khan's career where boxing him was very difficult. You know, you had to fight him. You couldn't really box him. Yeah, sure, it's boxing, but you had to get in there and make a very physical fight in order to have success against him. You wouldn't see Amir take beatings. If he would lose, he would just get caught and get stopped. You know, but it was hard to catch him clean. It was hard to really keep up with him in the ring, you know, because he was such a dynamic boxer. But you had to kind of pressure him and walk him into something hard and maybe knock him out. Otherwise, if you were trying to box him, specifically just box him from a technical standpoint, you had a lot of trouble. And stylistically, that wasn't the way to fight a guy like Amir. The way to fight Amir was make a really rough fight. So fighters in that style that really boxed and for the technical kind of style, Amir was a nightmare. And I was one of those fighters, and he was a nightmare for my style. He was a nightmare for Devin Alexander. He was a nightmare for Zab Judah. He was a nightmare for Luis Collazo. You know, fighters who were world-class fighters, but stylistically, styles make fights, and stylistically that just wasn't the way to go against Amir. You had to take the fight to him. You had to try to make it as physical as possible and use that physicality in the fight, and that's where you would trouble Amir. Why do I say this? I say this because I feel like Amir has kind of started to dip in his career. In the last fight with Samuel Vargas, you saw him have trouble with a guy who really wasn't making him fight. He was sort of boxing with him, and I remember seeing the 1-2 that landed, it dropped him. It was a 1-2 from a sitting position, from a position where you're just in a boxing stance. It wasn't where a mistake was forced out of Amir. It just happened. So when I saw this, I said, wow, Amir really has changed, you know, and I think he's sort of on a dipping and slide in his career. I'm going this way in this conversation because I'm saying Terence Crawford is your typical world-class boxer. So a boxer against Amir would have been this particular kind of boxer who switches stances and really slick. Usually a boxer has trouble with Amir, but could this boxer have trouble with Amir as well? Because he has a little bit more diversity to him in his switching stances and whatnot. Or will Amir's nightmare against all boxers be the thing that troubles Terence Crawford as well? I just don't think it's the time anymore. I think Amir has kind of dipped over, and I think he has trouble now even with boxers. A boxer's average as Samuel Vargas was giving him trouble. So I don't know that Terence Crawford is going to be the best way for Amir to kind of get himself on track. But of course, it's a payday. It's what Amir does at this point in his career. He's looking for the biggest fights. He's a champion, and he's chasing the biggest opportunity possible, which is this fight for the welterweight title against Terence Crawford, where, you know, Amir has never been a welterweight world champion. He's only been a light welterweight world champion. So, you know, it's a sort of an extra feather in his hat if he could win this fight. I just think at this point in his career, unfortunately, at this point in his career, I think it's a bit too late for him. You know, I think the version of Amir a couple of years back, probably before the Canelo Alvarez fight, and this version of Terence Crawford would be a dynamic fight. But I think now it's just timing and everything in life, and timing is everything in life, and I think it's just not the time anymore.
So just for the British fight fan though, can you give them something to cling on to? I mean, it's you know, it's two guys in the ring.
Well, I'll tell you what I can give him to something to cling on. You know, he's always been a nightmare for boxers. You know, if any version of the old Amir shows up, I think Terence has to worry about some things, you know, because Amir has that fast. He's sort of like a gunslinger in the Old West. He was quick on the trigger. He was in and out, darting in and out of distance. You just wonder if he has the legs. If Amir has any of those legs that he used to have, you know, that darting in and out and that quick to the trigger gunslinger style can give Crawford problems. But it's all in really what does Amir have left.
Crawford versus Khan, live only on BT Sport Box Office.